Good evening. Welcome to the August 8th, 2016 Troy City Council meeting. We are pleased this evening to have Councilman Baker lead us with the invocation. If you would please stand for that and then remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Father in heaven, we give you thanks for this day and thanks for the blessings you've bestowed upon all of us here in Troy and throughout the country and world. We ask that you continue to bless us this evening as we work through city issues and come together as a body and city council, doing what's best for the citizens of Troy and for the city as a whole. Please be with those who are in need of your help tonight and perhaps who are unable to ask for you themselves, and be with us always. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilman Baker. I think they tricked us and moved the flag on us.
Ellen knew where it was.
The Troy City Council meeting is now called to order. The roll call, Ms. Dixon.
Mayor Slater?
Here.
Councilmember Abraham?
Here.
Councilmember Baker?
Here.
Councilmember Campbell?
Here.
Councilmember Henderson?
Here.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Pennington?
Here.
All present. There is a yellow sheet on the council table that corrects the date for an excused absence. So I will move that the Troy City Council hereby excuses the absence of Council Member Campbell at the special City Council meeting of July 27, 2016, due to being out of the county.
Support.
Moved by the chair, supported by Mayor Pro Tem Pennington, that we excuse the absence of Council Member Campbell at the special City Council meeting of July 27, 2016, due to being out of the county. Discussion? The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Mayor Slater?
Yes.
Councilmember Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Campbell?
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Pennington?
Yes.
Motion passes. First agenda item is C1, certificates of recognition and special presentations, and it's a proud moment for SAFEbuilt. They're going to present their scholarship this evening check, and if I could ask Paul Featherstone from SAFEbuilt, along with Cindy Stewart, Community Affairs Director, to present the checks. Good evening, Paul.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor.
Good evening.
Members of Council. On behalf of SAFEbuilt, I'd like to thank the city for partnering with us in our annual scholarships. And this year we do have two outstanding individuals again. I think you're going to be very impressed with Cindy's presentation.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. It is my pleasure to announce the 2016 SAFEbuilt Youth Achievement Award recipients are Ava Lisowski and Megan Romick. The Youth Achievement Awards are intended to honor and recognize those youth that live in the city who have made a significant impact on the Troy community through volunteer work or special deeds and actions, and who demonstrate exceptional leadership and career academic purpose. The awards are awarded in two categories. The first place is awarded to a graduating high school senior, and the second place award could be any student in 9th through 12th grade. And tonight, our second place winner is Megan Romick. She's a 2016 Troy High grad, and she represents the best of America's youth and has been a role model to her peers. In 4 years, she has successfully completed several AP and honors classes. In addition to her academics, she's also actively involved in several extracurricular activities, including Project LEAD, Troy Social Justice Project, Health Occupation Students of America, National Honor Society, Fingers Crossed, and the Superintendent Student Advisory Board. Her involvement in Fingers Crossed, that's an organization comprised of students from all 4 high schools in Troy who strive to enhance the consciousness of social justice issues. While she's part of multiple organizations in the city, Fingers Crossed is where she has positively impacted others' views on paramount issues in our society. Currently, Fingers Crossed performs skits to 8th graders in the school district and conducts panel discussions afterwards to create awareness of social justice concerns. In addition to her involvement in Fingers Crossed, she's a member of the Superintendent Students Advisory Board. This board also includes students from all 4 high schools. They meet monthly to discuss current issues in the school district. Megan says she's proud to be involved in both organizations, which strive to make a positive impact on the Troy School District and the city as a whole. In the fall, she plans to attend the University of Michigan School of Nursing.
Megan, on behalf of SAFEbuilt and the City of Troy, I'd like to give you the scholarship for $500.
Thank you.
You want to say anything?
Didn't have to say anything?
You don't have to.
You don't have to.
Okay.
Just thank you is good.
Now, this year's first place awardee is Ava Lisowski. She's a 2016 Troy High School grad, and she also represents the best of America's youth, and she's been a role model for her peers. She graduated with a 4.3 GPA, and in her 4 years at Troy High, successfully completed 8 AP classes, as well as a number of honor classes. In addition to her extracurricular academics, Ava was also an active member in extracurricular activities including National Honor Society, Civil Air Patrol, Troy High Symphony Orchestra, Cross Country, and the Troy High Book Club. She's also editor-in-chief of the Zine, Troy Public Library's teen literary magazine, and she's on the executive board for the TPL Teen Advisory Board. Ava's one of the many residents, both young and old, who fought to preserve the Troy Library in 2008 when the Troy City Council announced its proposal to close the library if the millage vote did not pass. Citizens to Save Troy Public Library was launched, and Ava was very active with her dad in helping in the effort to save the Troy Library by going door to door, neighborhood to neighborhood, and even speaking before City Council. After 2 years, the millage was passed, and Ava is still actively involved with TPL. Last year, she collaborated with several Troy Library teens to present at a City Council meeting which discussed the library millage renewal and the need to allocate space in the library for the teens. So she was on hand just this last month when the new teen space was revealed at a special ribbon cut open house. She's very proud of the work she's done to help keep the Troy Library open and welcome to everyone, especially the Troy teens. In the fall, Ava plans to attend the Massachusetts Institute of Technology in Boston, majoring in nuclear engineering with a possible minor in political science international relations.
On behalf of SAFEbuilt and the City of Troy, I'd like to present you the scholarship check for $1,000.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Yeah, the city, we just want to say, just reading all of the applications and the essays, we are so proud to have young people like Megan and Ava as part of our community because they're our future.
And they worked very hard, and they deserve these scholarships. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Congratulations again to Ava and Megan. Next on the agenda is C2, the Troy construction update. And I saw this earlier today. Council's in for a treat here tonight. This is well done. And I'd like to introduce David Bloom, Management Assistant, who's going to make his first presentation to City Council. Good evening, David.
Good afternoon, City Council and City staff. Thank you for having me here today. This might not be as exciting as the last presentation. I have no money to hand out, so just bear with me here. But my name is David Bloom, and I am one of the next assistants in the management office. And I worked on this project with Joe Blair, who is the is the planning next assistant. He unfortunately is not able to be here. He's already gone back to college in Grand Rapids. But for this project and for the Next Assistant program, one of the big things that we've worked on is collaboration through different departments and doing different activities like touring the police station like you see here, working with networking skills and other activities like that to kind of hone our professional skills while we do work for the city as well. So one question that might be asked is, why is a management assistant really working with any construction at all? And it seems kind of out of the realm of the city manager's office. Aside from the big projects that Brian wants the Next Assistants to work on, that's kind of out of our wheelhouse and kind of gets us to branch out more. This construction is important because it's a sign of a healthy and growing city, and construction is really synonymous with growth. And for Troy, we have a lot of exciting construction projects that have recently been completed, are being worked on right now, and are coming up in the future. And so a lot of these can create new businesses and services that can affect the residents that are living close to them. And so the next question is really why present it tonight here at council? And that's because although there's already a planning portal that has a lot of the information on, the basic information on where to find the site plans and look at the site maps, it's kind of hidden. I didn't know about it before I started working for the city, and it doesn't really have any visual aspect besides looking at these site plans, and unless you're a trained professional planner, you really won't understand what's going in. And so I'm here today to present to you, the council, and also the residents of Troy, a little update on what is going on in the city and show you all of the wonderful construction that's been happening. And so for this process, what me and Joe ended up doing is getting a lot of the information from the planning portal on where these construction sites are. And then we really just kind of looked like we were taking a road trip where I have a camera around my neck and we're driving around. He's in the passenger seat with a big foldable map kind of yelling at me whenever we would miss a turn. And we would just go around and take pictures of every single construction site that's being worked on in Troy. And so if you're a resident, one of the biggest questions and the first questions that you think of when you see construction is wondering what's being built. You can take bets on what's being built, if it'll affect you or not, if it's a new restaurant, if it's something like a new container store. And this is exciting because what's being built can become part of your neighborhood, something that you'll see every day on your commute to and from work. And it's something that really you identify with when you tell someone. I know personally my girlfriend's house, the road to get there, I don't know the name of it, but I just know it's right after the Coney Island. And so these are things that can affect you and your family. You might see a new single-family residential neighborhood popping up and think, okay, my son or my daughter might have new friends in school that live here in the future. And so the second question is really, when will it be finished? Now, the interest in this question really depends on whether or not you're interested in what's being built. I know personally in my family, if it's a new restaurant, we'll be excited to have it be finished very quickly. That's because we don't really like to cook in my family. But it's very kind of a mystifying process to be able to look and see on a Friday coming back from work, you see the progress that's done, and then on Monday morning you can drive by and see almost like a whole new level and just a lot more construction than you even thought was possible is completed. This is not the case for every construction project. I know there are certain townhouses and apartments being built that are not as quick, but for the most part it is exciting to see and kind of important to see when things will be built. So for this project, after we went around, what we did was we created 2 different maps based on these initial questions. The first is a map right here that shows really it's categorized by the different land uses. So you have in yellow is the single-family residentials, in red is the retail and restaurants, And you can really see also in this where in Troy a lot of these fall. A lot in the north of Troy, you have a lot of these single-family residentials, and around Big Beaver, as part of the initiatives that we've taken in the city, you have a lot more of the retail and restaurants being built. And so the second map, the second map here is the same numbered projects, categorized differently and colored differently based off whether they are recently completed, in progress currently, or not yet started, but still past the planning stages and submitted to the planning board. So this you can really see kind of a lot of the red on there that really shows how much is in the wheelhouse that we have for Troy and will be built. And so after getting this, the big question that we had was, how do we take all these pictures and put them in a presentable way that's not a 262-slide PowerPoint? That would be pretty boring for everyone here. So what we've done is been working with the IT department, and we've created a story map for each of the pictures here. And so what this is an interactive map that's color-coded based on the progress and if it's started or completed. And you can go and look and click by location, and it'll pull up two different pictures, one main picture and one thumbnail picture for each different project to kind of see what's going on there, how is it looking, and it also gives some other information based on land use as well. So this story map is really a cool feature because it's easy for residents to be able to see it online, and it's very interactive. They can go at their leisure and see, look up by what's near their house, something like that, and be able to easily see the developments and the construction that's going on. So hopefully we'll be working and putting a link to this on the website. Are there any other questions for me that you have?
David, any questions from council? Mayor Pro Tem Pennington.
That's a great presentation. I'm just curious, how often do they update the map?
So this story map is actually one of the good features of that is that it is very easy to update. If you wanted to go and take new pictures every month, or if you wanted to take them every 2 weeks, you could easily go and then update the map with a good amount of ease.
Councilman Henderson.
The link on here is rather long. Rather than write it down, can we have that emailed to us so that we can?
Yes, I can get that to you.
I know you're going back to school soon. Are you handing this project off to somebody else that's going to update this and keep it up to date for you, I hope?
We haven't exactly figured that out yet, but yeah, hopefully that would be the goal, is to keep this an updated project that residents can always look back to.
Right. It's a great presentation. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
We'll get those restaurants going for your mom, okay?
Great job. Hopefully she's not watching. Don't go out very often, eh?
There are no carryover items this evening or public hearings, so we will move to public comment for items on the agenda from Troy residents and businesses. I'll call on David Ashland, Troy resident, to speak on N1. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council. I'm here to support waiving the attorney-client privilege on the communication concerning the city manager. Now, I don't know what is in this communication, and I don't know what the items were that concerned City Council. I only know what I have read in 3 or 4 newspaper articles. And as we know, newspaper articles are kind of hearsay. I do know that the council was sufficiently concerned to engage a labor and employment law attorney to do a review. That tells me that there was something of interest to the council. Now, as a resident of Troy, I kind of consider myself a member of the client class. You ladies and gentlemen are the client. I think as a resident and a taxpayer, I'm part of that client class. If not legally, certainly on an interested resident, involved resident basis. And as a taxpayer, I feel or even more so, because my taxes support the city, support all the expenses of the city. I believe not just me, but all residents of the city are entitled to see this document. I think we should shine light on this subject, be transparent, make this document available to the entire resident population. I support the approval of this resolution to waive the attorney-client privilege. This resolution needs your approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I'll call on Craig Lang, Troy resident, who wishes to speak on N1.
Mayor Slater, members of council, I'm here tonight as a resident of the city, and I wish to speak on the issue of the release and the waiver of claim or waiver of the privilege with reference to the report. Tonight, in doing so, you will discuss the waiver of the attorney-client privilege, which is attached to a report that I authored and I issued to you, and which has as its subject complaints and concerns raised by Troy employees concerning the office of the city manager. I am not going to take a position whether you should or should not release the report. However, the city council and you alone can determine whether to waive the attorney-client privilege and release the report. The attorney-client privilege is waivable. By that, I mean that a client has the right, you have the right, to waive it and to release an attorney communication such as the investigative report I prepared when, in your opinion, the interests in releasing it outweigh the interests in not releasing it. To refine the balancing of interests that you must engage in. In this case, the question is whether the public interest in releasing the report outweighs the public interest in not releasing it. Absent the release of the report, the public will not be privy to the details contained in it. The council, however, may believe that countervailing interests affecting the administration of the city outweigh the public interest in releasing the report and thus determine not to release it. In any event, I believe that it is important to state on the record that the doctrine of attorney-client privilege is not an impenetrable barrier to release of the investigative report, and this council has every right to exercise its discretion and do so if it deems such action would be in the best interests of the city of Troy. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes those that have signed up to speak on items on the agenda from Troy residents and businesses. Next is a response from City Council or City Administration. Does anyone wish to respond at this time? Councilman Baker.
First, I want to thank the two gentlemen who spoke this evening regarding this issue. I will have lots more to say on this issue when it comes up for discussion, but while I can appreciate Mr. Ashland's comments as a concerned citizen, I have to say that despite the work I know Mr. Lang has done for this city over the years, I'm horrified that he would come here and try to tell us about attorney-client privilege on a report that he drafted himself. And the reason I'm so concerned, and I would hope other attorneys watching and perhaps in this room would share my concern, is that it would be one thing for Mr. Lang to come tell us that as in a privileged communication, but for him to come into the public and advise us and give us information, to me seems outlandish and very highly inappropriate. I'm an attorney myself, and while I understand he prefaced everything he said as a concerned citizen and he was not doing things to sway our opinion either way, I strongly feel that that was not his motivation here. And despite how I end up voting later on this resolution, I'm pretty upset that the attorney that we engaged for this process would come and publicly state the issues regarding waiver of attorney-client privilege. And again, I know he's done a lot of work for the city, and I appreciate the work he's done on this report and at other times, but to me that seems very inappropriate, and I just wanted to get that stated on the record.
Thank you. Any other comments from council at this time? I think we all have a lot to say when the item is if and when it does make it to the table. There are no postponed items this evening. We will move to regular business. First on the agenda is I-1, and I do have one nomination that I am pleased to present this evening, and that is to hereby appoint Ruba Saman to the Global Troy Advisory Committee for the term that expires 4/30/2019.
Support.
Moved by the chair, supported by Councilwoman Hoderick, that we appoint Ruba Saman to the Global Troy Advisory Committee for the term that expires 4/30/2019. Discussion. I know Ms. Saman is here this evening, and she has had an opportunity to meet the council. The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Campbell?
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Pennington?
Yes.
Mayor Slater?
Yes. Congratulations. Thank you for stepping up and volunteering to be on our most important committee. So thank you so much. Next on the agenda, well, we don't have any city council appointments this evening. So we will move to I-2, and I have two mayoral nominations that I'd like to place into the record this evening. I would like to nominate for the Global Troy Advisory Committee, and I'm hoping that Mr. Ballerman will appreciate my attempt to pronounce his name, but we spoke to him today, and he wants to be known as Veni. So I will move Veni, which is spelled Venkatesan, Ballerman, Ballaraman, for the term that expires 4/30/2017. And I would like to also nominate Samir Bagri to the Global Troy Advisory Committee for the term that expires 4/30/2018.
Support.
Moved by the chair, supported by Councilman Baker, that we appoint those that I indicated on record to the terms as indicated for the Global Troy Advisory Committee. Discussion. The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Campbell?
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Pennington?
Yes.
Mayor Slater?
Yes.
Councilmember Abraham?
Yes.
Motion passes, and thank you to those who volunteered to be on this committee also. Mayor Pro Tem Pennington, do you have any nominations this evening?
There actually is two. A nomination for the Parks and Recreation Board for the term expiring 7/31/17, Gary Huff. It's a reappointment. And that's actually the only one.
Support.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Pennington, supported by Councilman Baker, that we nominate Gary Hoff as the TSD representative to the Parks and Recreation Board for the term that expires 7/31/2017. Discussion. The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Campbell?
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Pennington?
Yes.
Mayor Slater?
Yes.
Councilmember Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you to Gary Hoff for stepping up once again to be the TSD representative. Next on the agenda is I3. There is no request for closed session this evening. So we will move to I4, which is a budget amendment fiscal year 2017. Roll forward fiscal year 2016 budget for the Community Development Block Grant Funds and transfer to the Capital Fund for Redwood Park. I see Cindy Stewart, Community Affairs Director, Kurt Bovenseep, Public Works Director, and I know that Tom Darling is waiting in the wings if there are questions for him. So, good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here to talk about the Community Development Block Grant specific to Redwood Park. Council did approve that, and it did go through the County of Oakland, through the Federal Housing Administration, to be approved project, Redwood Park, to convert 2 basketball courts into 4 pickleball courts. Currently, the city does not have any outdoor pickleball courts, and there is an increasing demand. In that area, we did not see a lot of use of the basketball courts, so it was a good fit for the pickleball courts, especially since there was outside funding available to us. So the Community Development Block Grant, that's a portion of it, and Cindy's here with me in case there's any questions in regards to the community, or excuse me, the public service part of it, which is also known as Home Shore with the City of Troy. On May 9th, Council did approve a contract with WCI Contracting to install the pickleball courts. They did have a progress schedule of June 30th. Unfortunately, they did not meet that, which is why you're seeing the request to roll those funds forward. There was also a question on HRC. HRC did not, or Hubbell Roth and Clark did not come before Council at the same May 9th meeting because the city currently has a contract with Hubbell Roth and Clark for those engineering services. With the Community Development Block Grant, there's a lot of additional documentation, very specific documentation that needs to be handled to the county to be eligible for the reimbursement. We often hire a consultant firm that's more familiar with that to make sure everything's done properly, so there's no delay in reimbursement.
Any other further questions for staff regarding this item? Thank you. Oh,
What's the ETA for the pickleball courts?
Pickleball courts, we're scheduled to do our final walkthrough here within the next week to make the final approval and do a punch list. We're looking, by the end of August, we should have operational pickleball courts.
great. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Would somebody like to move the resolution to get it on the table? Councilman Henderson.
I'd like to move I4 as printed.
Support.
Moved by Councilman Henderson, supported by Councilwoman Abraham, that we approve I4 as printed in the agenda packet this evening. Discussion. The vote, Ms. Dixon?
Councilmember Henderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Pennington?
Yes.
Mayor Slater?
Yes.
Councilmember Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Campbell?
Yes.
Motion passes. I5 is a guaranteed maximum price and 2016/17 budget amendment for Fire Station Number 4. And here to make the presentation is Fire Chief Dave Roberts. Good evening, Dave.
Good evening, Mayor, members of City Council. The Fire Station Number 4 project is progressing on schedule, with construction anticipated to start on or about September 1st. Staff from the fire, building operations, engineering, and planning departments have been working closely with Redstone Architects and the Daly Company for several months to develop plans and costs for a new fire station that fits our present and future needs. And I'm pleased to say that our work is finally complete. Staff is asking Council to approve a guaranteed maximum price, or GMP, not to exceed $3,607,250 as submitted by the Daly Company. This price is the total cost of construction, including a 5% contingency in previously approved construction management services. Due to several factors, including higher land acquisition and utility relocation costs, totaling $431,317, higher construction costs of $132,545, and unspent 2015-16 budget proceeds of $342,600, a budget amendment to the Capital Projects Fund for Fire Station Number 4 in the amount of $849,722 is necessary to move forward with the project. A transfer from the General Fund to the Capital Projects Fund in the amount of $563,860 is also needed to bring prior and current transfers of $3,700,000 in line with the total project amount of $4,263,860. With me tonight is Mr. Steve Daly from the Daly Company and Mr. Dan Redstone from Redstone Architects, should council have any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from council for staff? I know there were several questions asked today, and it can get kind of confusing, but when you look at it, it kind of makes sense to me anyways.
It took me several looks at it, but
which is, yeah, if I can understand it, I think it's pretty easy, so. Thank you. Any questions for anyone else that's here to represent this project? Thank you. Somebody like to move the resolution? Mayor Pro Tem Pennington.
I will move I5 as printed.
Support.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Pennington, supported by Councilwoman Hoderick, that we approve I5, the guaranteed maximum price and 2016-17 budget amendment for Fire Station Number 4, which is project number 16.917.3 as printed in the document this evening. Discussion. The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Pennington?
Yes.
Mayor Slater?
Yes.
Councilmember Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Campbell?
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson?
Yes.
Motion passes. Best of luck. It's a much-needed project. We were supplied the pictures today of the old fire hall, and although history's nice, it's time to go. Thank you. I6 is the next item. Frightful 5K traffic control plan with the presentation by Eleanor, David, Sarah. Good evening. And I see you have some backup behind you. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. For the council members who haven't met all of us yet, again, my name is Eleanor. I'm the next assistant in City Manager's office. And this is David, whom you just heard speak. And this is Sarah, who is the next assistant in the Recreation Department. We're so excited to be here to present our big project, Frightful 5K. Just like Joe and David's construction update project, this was a great example of a Nexus system project that requires collaboration and also encourages us to learn new skills. This project was assigned by the City Manager Kishinek, who told us to design a fun, innovative event that can draw more people to Big Beaver Road and be a family-friendly, community-wide event. So we began this project by exploring the history of Big Beaver Road and an important city initiative that started it all. The City of Troy kicked off the Move Across Troy initiative in October 2015 by hosting Big Beaver Pedestrian Symposium. Overseen by Maggie Hughes, the management analyst in City Manager's office, this two-day event was a focused effort to discuss pedestrian mobility barriers that exist on Big Beaver. This corridor's unique and diverse demographics, problems, and opportunities led the city administration to hire Mark Delaverne, creator of the Chicago Pedestrian Plan and transportation expert at Sam Schwartz Engineering, to identify best practices moving forward. So Mr. Verne and his team focused on 3 specific nodes of Big Beaver where infrastructure changes could improve pedestrian experience. As you may already know, the city is moving forward with the first project at the pedestrian crossing at Automation Alley, which is again reinforced by the 2016 strategies. But the second and equally important component for success outlined by Mr. Verne was the need to help residents reimagine the way Big Beaver is used. He specifically cited 2 to 3 citywide outdoor events to get people walking or running along the road. So now, we present to you the Frightful 5K, which we are proposing to host on October 23rd, 2016. Taking place a week before Halloween, this will be a fun-filled, family-friendly event for not just Troy residents, but for everyone in the Metro Detroit area. And unlike many other 5K events that are fundraisers, this event is about placemaking and will be a crucial means to engage the Troy community in the Move Across Troy initiative. So now David is going to talk about the details of the event.
Thank you, Eleanor. So for the Frightful 5K event, which here, if you look, is the logo that we've come up with. Actually, the next assistant in the library marketing department, Jaron, has helped come up with this, the text and the little ghost logo as well. So there's some more collaboration that seems to be a theme for tonight and the next assistants. But the event itself will start on October 23rd at 7:30 in the morning is when the check-in and on-site registration will take place. At 8:30 will be the 5K race, which will take place on Big Beaver, parts of Livernois, as well as the Civic Center campus. And hopefully after that is done and completed, we will have the 1K family pumpkin fun run, which will be on the community center track at 9:30. With that being last, hopefully we encourage families that decide to run that to stay around and be able to participate in some more fun events and eat some food to recover after that. So we also are encouraging any costumes for anyone in attendance, either runners or anyone that's there to support other runners. And the registration fees for this, because we did want to come as close as possible to breaking even as opposed to having a fundraiser, we've decided to have the registration before October 5th be $15. After that, it bumps up to $20, and on the day of will be $25. T-shirts, long sleeve T-shirts that we designed will also be part of the package that comes for anyone that's a participant. Guaranteed, if you sign up before October 5th, you can get whatever is really left. Hopefully we'll have extras if you sign up after the 25th as well. But some of the other features that we have for this race is the long sleeve T-shirt, a finisher medal for everyone in the 5K, and professional timing services on a USTAF certified course. So the route that we have here starts at the community center where the green hexagon is, and goes down Livernois, Big Beaver, and turns around in one of the turnarounds in the street around the Fresh Time area, and then runs back through Big Beaver and heads around to circle the Civic Center Drive area, passing the library, police station, and City Hall. We have worked with OHM to prepare a traffic control plan, which will hopefully be approved tonight, that will also include the closing of the full roads for anywhere that runners will be on, starting at Livernois Road and ending where the turnaround is on Big Beaver, as well as where runners will be north of Big Beaver on Livernois, but south of Heartland, as well as the Civic Center Drive area as well. So now Sarah is going to present a little bit about the family 1K run that we'll have as well.
Thank you. Okay, so in addition to the 5K, we're also doing a 1K pumpkin family fun run for people that don't necessarily like to run the 5K, which would be myself. I would totally do a pumpkin fun run. Unlike the 5K, we're doing $10 across the board per person. There is no change of fee with date change. It just seems a lot simpler that way, and $10 seems pretty reasonable. Every person that participates and registers for the pumpkin fun run will also receive the same long sleeve t-shirt that the 5K runners get, as well as a pumpkin, but they're only guaranteed their size in that t-shirt if they register before October 5th, just like the 5K racers. Other than that, if they register after, it'll be a first come, first served basis. This is the proposed 1K route. Like David said, it is the track area around the field by the community center. With it starting at 9:30, it won't conflict with the racers, hopefully, that are cutting across there to go around the loop around Civic Center. We have not set in stone a start and end place yet for this route, just because we aren't really sure what would be the best place to start and end for the families for any events or things that we offer after. Other than that, Eleanor will move on to the next steps we're going to take.
So like David mentioned, because the 5K route involves two Oakland County roads, Livernois and Big Beaver, the road closure request on those two roads has to be addressed by the Road Commission for Oakland County. So tonight we are seeking City Council approval on hosting this event and also a resolution authorizing the permit application and road closure request to the RCOC. Another big component of road closure is having the traffic control plan. In your agenda packet is the traffic control plan prepared by OHM, and with the help from the Troy Police Department and thanks to lighter traffic in Sunday mornings, we're confident that the attached traffic control plan will successfully accommodate the Sunday morning traffic in the area. If you have any specific questions regarding the traffic plan at the end of the presentation, Sergeant Lehman, Mr. Hootery, and Mr. Bovenseep are here with us tonight to answer your questions. And once we have City Council approval, we will then open registration and launch the website and social media campaign to really promote the event. At this point, we'll also begin contacting impacted residents and businesses by mailing them a notification, or if necessary, we'll visit them door to door. We'll also actively solicit donors and sponsors. In addition to cash donation, we are also seeking for different creative donations and partnerships that tailors our needs, such as media sponsors, refreshment or water donations, and many others. We'll also reach out to different local community organizations and schools for partnership opportunities and volunteer recruitment. And finally, 2 weeks before the event, we should be able to finalize details about supplies and place the order for merchandise printing. And here is an estimated net profit summary for the event. With about 300 participants and cash donations, we are expecting about $7,800 in revenue. We're anticipating the expenses for the event to be around $7,200, which will be funded from the City Manager's Office marketing budget. We anticipate that we will break even or make small profit for this very first event. And the expense for the traffic control is not included in the net profit summary. It's going to be managed, the cost for that will be managed by Troy Police Department and Department of Public Works. Similar to having Troy Police presence at any other community events, such as Troy Days and many other community events, the Troy PD will provide 10 police officers and 2 supervisors for Frightful 5K, and the cost of having those officers for 3 hours is approximately $2,600. This is budgeted in the Troy PD operating budget. And DPW will help us and provide us with the majority of the traffic control devices as needed. And with the cost of fabricating the traffic control devices and labor costs for install and removing those devices combined, we are anticipating the total expense to be approximately $3,050. Again, DPW will manage all costs associated with this project similar to other city projects or community events. And should Frightful 5K evolves into an annual event, the traffic control device expense will be significantly reduced as we can reuse the signs that are made for the first event. So, we believe that Frightful 5K has great potential for growth. We're confident that it will evolve into an event that attracts more participants each year and showcases Big Beaver Road and progress of Move Across Troy initiative to Troy residents. So thank you so much for your time, and we can answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Thank you. Councilman Baker.
I think it was a great presentation. My question is, when can I register? Because I will absolutely run.
After your approval.
After approval, huh? And also, I think it's anything that where we're getting people on their feet on Big Beaver or in the Civic Center campus, I think is great for the city of Troy and great for what we're trying to do to move forward in the city. So great job and great presentation. Thank you.
Councilwoman Holder.
I actually have two questions. The first is, I'm assuming when you're contacting residents, the churches down Livernois, that's a given, right? That you're gonna, okay. Even further down, because people might be traveling, okay, I get it. Just making sure. Secondly, it occurs to me that, the businesses on Big Beaver, when they're aware of this, they may look to participate in their own fun ways. And I guess this is more of a comment. I think that's awesome. So, I hope we would be able to, collaborate maybe with the Troy Chamber a little bit to try to boost that, because those folks that hang on after and maybe do coffee down the road or breakfast down the road, even aside from what they, go shopping at the mall, anything we can do to just exploit the event and explode it outward would be great. And I know that's in your minds. I'm just saying it out loud and acknowledging it, the potential. Thanks.
Councilman Henderson.
Two questions also. The proceeds, $600, could be more, could be less, but where do they just sit in that account maybe for next year to offset that, or what do we plan on doing with that? And the second question, what is the probability of Oakland County approving closure of Big Beaver and Livernois?
First question, I think, is for Tom.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. We will be accumulating the resources or revenues, if you will, in the same fund that we are using to offset the cost, which will be part of the general fund.
The second question, we have met with the Road Commission for Oakland County several times already. The plan that you have in your packet is based on their last set of comments. I've got all the documents ready for signatures from the city manager to move forward with them. I've talked with the permanent engineer as recent as today. So we have no doubt that they'll approve it. The step for them is they need to take it to their board. When you close a county road, it has to get approved by their board. So that would happen later this month. So we're very confident in working with them. We've met with them 2 or 3 times now. So the plan you have is what we consider the final plan.
And if it's a city road, you can do that, or the city manager?
Correct. Yeah, City Council is the approving body for a traffic control order. So rather than go to traffic committee, we thought it appropriate just to come to you with your resolution. Myself or Gary, Chief Mayor, can issue a temporary traffic control order for 90 days. So we could issue that so that the road closures are official on any of the city streets. And so we're going to address it that way, and then the Road Commission resolution will approve the county road closures.
Great. Any other questions? Councilwoman Abraham asked almost all of the really good questions that got answered before here, so, you don't get to ask them on camera, but you asked the good questions, and they were already answered for you. Just want to point that out.
Very interested in this 5K, well, maybe the 1K. And I was thinking if Pokemon Go is still popular in October, maybe we could plant a few lures there. Who knows?
Can you walk?
Yes.
Okay.
For both 5K.
Great. Any other questions? Who's so excited that they want to move it? Okay. Councilman Baker.
I'd like to move I-6, the Frightful 5K traffic control plan, as printed.
Support.
Councilman Baker, supported by Councilwoman Abraham, that we approve I-6, the Frightful 5K traffic control plan, as printed in the agenda packet this evening. Discussion? The vote, Ms. Dixon?
Mayor Pro Tem Pennington?
Yes.
Mayor Slater?
Yes.
Councilmember Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Campbell?
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Motion passes. Congratulations, great presentation. It's nice to see things starting to happen that were recommended to us earlier, so thank you for that. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda. Anyone on council wish to pull a consent agenda item? Councilman Henderson.
Yeah, I'd like to move all items on the consent agenda as printed and as amended on the yellow sheet that we have in our hands.
For J5?
For J5, yes.
Support.
By Councilman Henderson, supported by Councilwoman Abraham, that we approve all items on the consent agenda, including the correction to J5. Discussion. The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Mayor Slater?
Yes.
Councilmember Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Campbell?
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Pennington?
Yes.
Motion passes. If you are here on a consent agenda item this evening, they've all been approved. Next are memorandums and future council agenda items. There are none submitted this evening. So we will move to public comment for items not on the agenda from Troy residents and businesses, and I will call on Katrina, as she requested that I just use her first name. Troy resident. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Councilman. My name is Katrina. You can definitely try to pronounce my last name. It's Leontьева. And I'm a Troy resident for 16 years out of 22 that I've been living in America. And on July 11th of 2016, it was brought to my attention that I am in violation of Chapter 28, Paragraph 11 of the City Code of Ordinance, which states that bushes and/or trees of the street corners should be 25 feet from the intersection and could not exceed 30 inches in height for safety reasons and for traffics. I did some driving around the city, and to my great disappointment, I noticed that a lot of corners in major street corners in violation of this exact paragraph. Not only Crooks Road, but also I've been on Livernois, Jannar, and Rochester Road and suburbs, and I can go on and on and on and on. What I'm asking this council today to do is either to reassess this particular paragraph simply because it will require to remove a majority of the trees, or on the contrary, to reassess all the street corners and bring it up to code. Well, singling one house and one corner would not resolve the issue of violating this Chapter 28, Paragraph 11 of the City Code. I'm done.
Thank you. After comments, we'll give an opportunity for administration to respond. Next, I'll call on Matt Martin, Troy resident. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members. I'm here representing 54 households in Wattle Square. We're a small single-entrance cul-de-sac on the corner of John R. south of Wattles. As you may know, there's a new condominium development going in right by us called Estates at Willowbrook by Mondrian Properties. And the plans call for a connecting road from the condominium development into our subdivision, which will then give us a second entrance onto John R. For 3 or 4 decades, the residents of Wattles had enjoyed a quiet, safe neighborhood inside of a single point of entry in that cul-de-sac. The new condo development unintentionally threatens to change that with the connection that they're suggesting. We've shown our opposition to this in the past. We submitted a petition signed by 90% of our residents to stop the connection to Dexter Road, to both the planning department and I believe also to Mr. Kishnick. In the past, and I believe you all received an email, or most of you did, on or around July 20th on the matter. So that's what brings us here today, is that we fear that the westbound access is going to fundamentally change our quality of life in this subdivision. We are concerned about the increase in cut-through traffic, as you may have seen with recent editions of apps like Google Waze and Google Maps, for people trying to skip around busy intersections like we have at Waddles and John R. Also increasing the amount of parents and school teachers who already park in our small subdivision for school activities and also for morning and evening child pickup. We also just generally are concerned about the safety of residents, pets, children, of which have grown very comfortable to riding their bikes, and really I'm being concerned about 3 cars a day that end up getting in our subdivision. And then finally, potential for crime. There's been studies that show that single point of entry versus dual point of entry does increase the likelihood for crime in a neighborhood, increase in light and noise pollution, especially for the neighbors that will have new entry points, people coming in late at night to flash right into their front entryways. And finally, decrease in property values. There's been other studies, and I believe as part of some of the emails we sent, that show that single entry cul-de-sacs have a much higher property value than interconnected grid patterns. So that comes to our request. We just ask you to respect the tradition of our neighborhood. We ask you to let us keep our quality of life as it is, and ask the planning department to reconsider that entry point amongst a few other options, of which we suggest, I don't know if you've looked at the plans, but there are some possibilities. Me not being a planner myself, there seems to be some additions that wouldn't require it, continue to keep the barrier up, or as we've seen in the past from you, we believe on August 24th, 2015, you passed a resolution 2015-8-112, essentially states the reasoning for EVA barriers rather than pass-through.
Thank you, Mr. Martin.
Thank you.
Next, I'll call on Ryan Johnson, Troy resident.
Good evening. Good evening. As you may recall, I was here a couple weeks ago, brought up an issue in relation to the tax assessment that came on our house this past year. My wife and I moved in after buying the house this spring. And so I've been attempting to address the issue on a number of fronts, and I'm attempting to educate myself on the nuances of the Michigan tax law, property tax law. Frankly, there's just too much ground to cover within the 3 minutes allotted here, but really I'm trying to bring about awareness and trying to seek a resolution on my particular issue. And it really just two different issues at hand here. One is the law itself and how the city of Troy, and probably frankly a lot of other cities, are kind of skimming over a very important feature or aspect of the law, which is the law very specific states in many places that the intent of the taxation is to find the true cash value. Through necessity, a lot of methodologies are used to average buy prices throughout a local area for comparative per square footage, things like that. And that works a lot of the times. The reality is, though, especially when it comes to foreclosures, is that that methodology assumes that all houses are in good shape. There's kind of a de facto age qualifier attached to those houses under the automatic assumption of its shape, and that's just a condition of percentage good as represented by its age. That is, as far as I can tell, in every aspect of the law that I've seen, is not a fixed thing. So, you know, a house at age, 30 years old is assumed to be something like 66% good or 64% good, and that is a factor in its assessing value. But the reality is that the percent good can be evaluated by the local assessing office, and if a place is in much worse shape, that should be factored into the assessment, which it really isn't being. With foreclosures in particular, most people who have gone through a foreclosure didn't have a bunch of surplus funds to maintain their house over the period of time in which they were suffering financially. So the probability of a foreclosed house having condition-related issues is much actually greater than the average house. Now, I've been talking to the State Tax Commission, and they've put a publication out suggesting that each assessing unit physically get out on the ground and see 20% of their field every year. So every 5 years, they'll have an assessment of the physical condition. I don't believe that's actually happening.
Johnson, I'm sorry, but your 3 minutes is up, and that, according to our rules, is really the limit that we have to allow you to discuss this. We have received emails from you and 2 opportunities to speak to us, and I'm sorry, but I have to cut you off at 3 minutes. That's the rules. You're welcome to communicate with us through the emails again if you wish, but we'll wait to hear what the city administration has to say tonight, I think. So, thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes those that have signed up for public comment on items not on the agenda from Troy residents and businesses. So next we have City Council, City Administration response, reply to public comments. Anyone on council wish to start with comments, questions for staff? City Manager Kishnick, I would just, I would assume that administration wants to speak on Katrina's issue about the disarray of the whole city.
Yeah, certainly. I'd like to, the first 2, I can handle the first 2 fairly easily. That's the first I've heard of this on the corner and the shrubs today. And I think Mark Miller's here, who all these departments are under him. Just to save time so you don't have to wait around, if Mark could meet you out in the hallway and talk and see what needs to be done. It really falls under the code enforcement and planning, and Mark's more than willing to do that right now. And the other one was the entrance to the condo. I think have the same conversation right now. I think this was a private to public street. Is that? What's the definition of private? Okay, so anyway, I think it's a private to public street, but that's why I need Mark to just work with them. I know they've been talking about it, and I'm not up to speed on it until they.
If we could just have Katrina and Mr. Martin stay after to speak with staff. Hopefully they can help you to some degree. Mr. Johnson, I've gotten emails from the city attorney and the city manager, and from everything I've seen, read, myself, city council's hands are tied with this issue. And I think you have to go to Lansing to change something. That's my opinion. And I'm not here to debate that tonight, but I'll be more than happy to talk to you after the council meeting tonight. Any other comments from council? Next on the agenda are council referrals. There is one council referral this evening and one by Council Member Abraham, so I will turn the microphone over to her.
Thank you, Mayor. This is an item that I thought and prayed long and hard about before I put it on the agenda. When it comes to public matters, I feel transparency is vital. And that's why I decided to put this resolution on the table as a council referral. So for the benefit of those watching this meeting on TV or online or here in this room, I've prepared my comments, much like the next assistants have done, on why I have done this, and hopefully we can get a vote to have discussion and perhaps...
Before you start, Ms. Dixon, did she have to have the resolution on the table before we have discussion?
That would be the proper thing to do, yes.
If you could move the resolution, see if you get support.
I will move N1 council referral from Councilmember Abraham, resolution to waive attorney-client privilege.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Abraham, supported by Councilmember Campbell, that we approve N1, a council referral from Councilmember Abraham, resolution to waive city client privilege as printed in the document this evening. Now we can have discussion.
All right,
Excellent.
I will call on Councilmember Abraham first.
Thank you. So in my prepared remarks on why I put this resolution on the table, in early June, a labor and employment law attorney was authorized by Troy City Council to review concerns that a city employee had raised regarding expenditures by the city manager. Upon receipt of this attorney-client privileged report and exhibits, the Troy City Council met in closed session multiple times to discuss the findings and the merit of the report. On July 27th, a majority of the Troy City Council approved in a 6-0 vote a media statement regarding the initial complaint. Since that time, at least one Freedom of Information Act request has been received, and articles about this matter have appeared in the Detroit News, the Troy Times, the Troy Patch, and the Troy Somerset Gazette. These articles have been commented upon and shared online. And it's not just the internet. People are talking. Neighbors are talking to neighbors as they have their First Amendment right to do so. But they're doing it without the benefit of seeing the information presented to us. As a result, many of the comments regarding the conduct of the city manager and the city council are speculative and incredulous. Everyone at this table understands that we, as elected official and government employees, that we are held to a higher standard. Maintaining integrity is essential to fostering public trust. We can only achieve that by allowing our actions to be as transparent as possible so that we can show our constituents that doing government best isn't just a tagline in Troy. Our words must be demonstrated by our actions. It is important that the public sees all the information that this governing body saw when we made our decisions. Cherry-picking what to include or what not to include outside of FOIA guidelines flies in the face of transparency. Several council members campaigned specifically on transparency, and I would encourage them to keep the promises they made on the campaign stump. This is precisely why I put forth the resolution to waive attorney-client privilege and release a redacted version of the report. A lack of public information is a breeding ground for rumor, speculation, and innuendo. We had this happen in the city several years ago, and it nearly tore the city apart. I agree with what our mayor stated in the Troy Times article. The report speaks for itself, he said. That report needs to speak to any individual that has questions about this matter. Releasing the report will allow residents to have the context into the full situation and allows the entire community to move forward together with common knowledge. I do not make the case for waiving attorney-client privilege lightly. Here, the public has legitimate questions about their city manager, his integrity, and how the city council has conducted themselves. This is about how the city is run, with transparency or without, with integrity or without. Furthermore, there's precedence of attorney-client privileged material being released in the private sector. In 2014, General Motors voluntarily released the Volucas report on the ignition switch recall, although it was protected by attorney-client privilege and as attorney work product. How can Troy claim to be transparent and doing government the best if we choose to act in a way that is less transparent than the private sector? Citizens expect and deserve transparency. This is the reason why I've put this resolution on the table and why I ask my fellow council members to support it.
Thank you. Any other comments, discussion?
I'll wait.
Pardon me, you can wait for what?
Wait for if anybody else has some comments. I'll hold mine for a while. That's okay.
Any other comments from council? Councilman Baker.
I appreciate Councilmember Abraham bringing this to the table to discuss. It has certainly been something that has occupied my mind, as it's occupied all of ours, and as well as the city managers and city administration and staff. And the citizens of Troy are learning about it after the majority, those of us up here did, and I'm sure there are questions being asked for them as well. I'm one of those people that campaigned on transparency. I did. I believe transparency is very, very important in city government, and any government for that matter. I'm also an attorney, and I spoke about this briefly a little bit ago, and Councilmember Abraham just brought up GM's voluntary waiving of the attorney-client privilege. But I do not believe it's precedent in this city or a city government to waive attorney-client privilege, and City Attorney Bloom would know better than I on that specifically. But I think this sets a terrible precedent for this city and for any issue that comes up that would require attorney-client privilege documents to be presented to council or anyone in city administration. My main concern with releasing this document, or this report, is for the people who participated in providing information to the interviewer. They gave that information with an understanding that it was being used for a specific purpose, and the idea of their comments and their identities most likely being released publicly based on our decision is very concerning to me, and I don't think that's fair to them. Usually, in my experience as an attorney, when people are providing information in that kind of setting, they are more apt to share freely when they believe their identity is not going to be shared and published throughout the city, which I'm confident it will be if this report is released. The broader issue here that's important for me is this. The city manager has come under scrutiny, as the Troy Times said. That was the headline. And I think it's important to remember what that said. It said he's come under scrutiny, which means to me that the process is working. Something was brought to our attention, we investigated it, and we're scrutinizing it, and it will continue to be scrutinized. I want the entire city of Troy to understand, city administration, city employees, city manager, he should know this already, that nobody is sweeping anything under the rug here. We are watching everything that happens in the city administration at this point, and I want everybody to know that, and especially Brian, that although I said I do support Brian and his vision for this city, I am watching, and any mistake he makes that is of any kind of bad thing for this city, he does so at his own peril. And that sounds awfully dramatic, but it's the truth, and I want everybody in the city to understand that whether or not we release this report, we are still watching, we are still taking care of your tax dollars, we are being transparent with what happens with your money. Other comments have been made in the newspaper which I think were a little bit different tone, and one of the terms that was used was slippery slope, and that gets used in politics all the time. And for me, I'll use it right now. I think it's a slippery slope to start waiving attorney-client privilege when we feel like it, as opposed to upholding the tradition of what attorney-client privilege is. And as of right now, I will tell you I'm voting no on this. I don't see a good reason to do it. I think that anybody who asks questions of any of us will get the information they need. I think that the city manager's office will share information as he feels necessary regarding this, knowing that we are watching and that the city of Troy is watching. I think this is probably the safest time with your tax dollars in the city of Troy with this information out there as it is. And I'll be honest, more comments may come to me after other people say, but I'll leave it at that right now. I do appreciate Councilmember Abraham for praying over this and bringing it up. I know that it's been forefront on my mind for a number of weeks, and it's not an easy decision to do this. But I think this sets a terrible precedent for the city.
Thank you. Councilwoman Hoderick.
I guess I look at it a little differently, but respectfully. I do respect what you're saying. But any management body does have the right to waive. They do, in the private sector, and we do here. And it's an important question about the precedent. But transparency is in the DNA of this municipality. I take pride in that fact and want to continue to advocate for that transparency. I see no compelling reason why we shouldn't be transparent about the findings of this investigation, especially in the times in which we live, where culturally the public demands accountability and strives for more understanding through scrutiny of the decisions made by its leaders. We have to think about the city's stakeholders, the taxpayers, and do what's right for the overall good of our community. The truth is, this report contains information that shows our employees exercising their fiduciary responsibility in tremendous ways that we as a community can respect, that I believe the city manager respects and has said so. The short-term and long-term integrity of this municipality is at stake by not waiving the attorney-client privilege. It has been said that nothing rings true like the truth. I feel strongly that we must let the truth, the facts of this matter, ring so we can move forward constructively in a climate of trust and honesty and singing from the same hymn book. It's about transparency in government. It's about integrity. It's about being forthright and candid. It's about the reputation of this city and its employees. It's about transcending gossip and taking a moral high ground and holding ourselves, all of ourselves, accountable. For me, this is a no-brainer, yes, and I will be supporting the resolution.
Councilman Campbell, are you ready now?
I suppose so. We can move right into it, I guess. You know, this report that we have that nobody has seen, you know, it has some very serious claims brought forth against our city manager. You know, and it's things that just shouldn't happen. It's some disregard for rules. It's disregard for some operational processes. It's just things that should not be done at his level. We're paying him a lot of money. And I think in a lot of ways he's kind of I think he's let me down a little bit. I think he's let some other people up here down a little bit of what's happened. But at the end of the day, our issue up here right now, and the reason why we want to get this to the public, excuse me, we have 7 people up here. There's no doubt that we have a split on this subject, and it's going to go that way tonight. You're going to see 4 people vote to just let it go. We've had several other meetings. There's 4 people who vote let it go. So for the public out there who we are supposed to represent, and for the employees who have gone out on the limb, they have. I mean, they've done a great job. They've come forth with things that we would have never known. I think we owe them the opportunity to show that we're going to respect them and honor them, as well as all the people who pay all the taxes for the city. And what we're going to see tonight is the same 4, for whatever their personal reasons are. I have no idea. They will sit up here tonight and they will vote this down, and we will go on like we have for the last several weeks, saying, hey, it really wasn't that bad. You know, it was only a few people. It's only a couple things. You know, give them a break. You know, I don't think you give somebody in his position with the responsibility for this city a break. This is not a training program. He's been a city manager for years and years and years. Now, maybe he's always done this for years. I have no idea. But we owe the right vote, and the right vote is to get this out in front of the public and let the public make their decisions on what we should do. With that, I will leave it. Thank you.
Well, thank you for telling everybody how we're all going to vote before we even talk.
Well, you know, Mayor, if...
Councilman Henderson, please.
Yeah, you know, we hired Brian 3.5 years ago, right after a pretty tumultuous time in Troy's history. And, you know, one of the directives we gave Brian at that time is be creative, do the right thing for the city, and let's try to make this place the best place it can be, minus, you know, or coming off of a 3-year period of time where we had millages, library issues, mayor problems, all kinds of things. And when none of us took this lightly as we went into closed sessions, deliberating over several issues in this report, and it was very difficult to try to navigate through that. Everything was taken into consideration. And, you know, there is a game plan. We've ad nauseum talked about, you know, moving forward, you know, how do we get to the next level? How do we keep the momentum going that we've had for the last 3.5 years, which I don't think anybody can argue it's been exceptional. And so, you know, that said, you know, you have to give some credit to a guy that has single-handedly saved the DDA from bankruptcy. We now have $33 million in surplus where we were supposed to be bankrupt at the end of 2015. I remember that distinctly at my first year on council. And we've been able to fix practically all the roads in Troy. We have a dog park. We've got so much development going along. You know, for the few administrative things that we had to address, and a lot of it was interpretation of rules and policies. And again, I don't want to get too deep into weeds on this because you know, this is all closed session stuff. But you have to consider all aspects of the job that the city manager has done as you move forward and make decisions like this. I'll be voting no. I think to echo Councilman Baker's note, it is a slippery slope. We've had a lot of closed session attorney-client privilege items in the last 5 years that I've been on council. Not one of them would I want to put out in the public and have scrutiny. And it's not because I'm not transparent, but there's reasons that we're privy to some of that information, and that's frankly why we're elected, so that we don't have 82,000 people in the city making decisions. We've got a board of 7 that comes up with, I think, very good decisions most of the time. Again, I'll be voting no on this. I don't think, again, it's not a transparency issue as much as it's an unnecessary issue, and we need to keep the momentum going.
Mayor Pro Tem Pennington.
Well, number one, I'm surprised and dismayed to see Mr. Lang here tonight commenting on a report that was supposed to be confidential. By coming tonight and speaking on an agenda item that is confidential, that he wrote, it may or may not be unethical, but it's definitely in my eyes inappropriate. As far as waiving this attorney-client privilege, these people that came and spoke about what they saw that was going on are to be applauded. They came and they put their jobs on the line and were probably, you know, ridiculed for coming forward. They saw something that should have been brought to light, and they did that. And for them to have their conversations that they thought were anonymous brought to light, I think is unfair and could open us up to lawsuits. Yeah, I was going to make a slippery slope comment, but a couple of people already have, so I won't make the comment that I was thinking. But we've had so many closed-door meetings that to waive the attorney-client privilege for one is inappropriate, and I'm not going to support this.
Thank you. Well, I guess it's my turn. And I respect everybody's opinions, Mr. Campbell as well. And that's the great thing about having 7, is we don't always all think alike. We don't always talk the same talk, and I think that's good and that's healthy for our city. But I also am appalled that Mr. Lang came here tonight. I didn't need to hear that. I think I know what our job is and what my job is. And this is not about transparency for me. This has nothing to do with the underlying issue either. It's a very easy decision for me. I think it sets a terrible precedent for this city. And I don't care what GM did in 2014. They were probably going to go bankrupt again if they didn't do that. It's never been done here before. It's never been brought up before. It goes against the very fabric of why there is an attorney-client privilege, and that is full and frank communication that allows the attorney to better represent the client's interests. Okay? It's that simple. This was a personnel matter, and many of the employees spoke under the cloak of attorney-client privilege. You are asking me to violate that trust by voting for this resolution. If I were an employee here, I would be very, very concerned about this attempt by some council members to do this. Who would ever come forward again to trust the attorney-client privilege? Who would come forward? And I bet you every single police officer today in Troy is just thankful that he has the protection of Garrity, because that's exactly what this is. This is the same protection that's given to employees for their client-attorney privilege. I think it's irresponsible to do this. And if I could just make one correction to Councilwoman Abraham's statement, I did not say that I support the report. I said the media report speaks for itself, not the report.
Page 14A.
I did not say I supported the report. I said I supported the media report. So, having said that,
Mayor?
I'm going to call for the vote. The vote, Ms. Dixon.
I think we still have a right to say something up here. We don't call for a vote.
The council members do have a right to speak, Mayor.
That's correct. Thank you.
Everybody's spoken?
Speak again.
The chair.
I'll allow Councilman Campbell.
I just almost find this humorous that we have three people up here who are in total disdain that Craig came here, but for everything else that's going on, for everything else you know, it's okay. I just, it's amazing to me. And I'm not saying, obviously Brian's not up for a capital punishment or anything else, but, I think it's fair to let people just know what's going on. And as far as the privilege, if it was a lawsuit, obviously we would not even be up here. This is a personnel issue. And I think you're wrong when you talk about all the employees, because I think you find the employees are flabbergasted that we let them out hanging with that statement that you released. So I'm not sure you really got the pulse on what really is going on there, Mayor.
I think I got a good handle on it. Councilwoman Hoderick.
When you say the statement speaks for itself, I think the statement let us down. The reaction to the Detroit news story was extremely disturbing to me. I had people tell me straight out that they found the statement to be laughable, and they're trying to read between the lines of what we didn't say. It casts us in a really negative light as a leadership body, and this in turn is harmful to the city's reputation. We are better than this. The employees in the report there's nothing for them to be ashamed of. We need to correct this situation and the mistrust and the negative pall that has now been cast over a city that finally restored its reputation. We need to be candid. Why wouldn't we strive to be as transparent as possible. There had even been a suggestion at one point that we should have maybe done an ICMA investigation. That would have been truly public. So I too am frustrated at the great disdain of legal counsel explaining to us whether we can or cannot do this. And people who haven't worked in law enforcement or aren't attorneys don't necessarily know and understand that. We're not doing anything wrong if we do waive it. It is an important question and one that we weigh very carefully. I think the precedent we are at risk of setting here is not publicly and fully acknowledging what the employees sounded an alarm on, and publicly sharing what we're doing and how we're looking at this. And we are best able to do this when we all have the same information and we can lock arms and move forward together. And to suggest otherwise in a community that functions as this one does, on every single level, whether I've been at church, at the schools, working with that young woman, I recognize her from Saving the Library. I recognize you from ethnic issues that we've looked at. That's how we work together. The precedent that we want to set is one where we can say we trust one another to work with this information going forward. By leaving it under a cloak, I think we set a precedent of mistrust and distrust in the community. And that very deeply concerns me.
Any other comments?
Mayor?
Councilman Henderson.
I think it's interesting that when we put the press release together that we did, it passed 6-0. That fact should not be lost on people. If there was such disdain for the way that the manager, and I think in the Troy Times, there was a quote by a council person stating that she had some significant reservations about our manager's ability to make decisions. I'm paraphrasing, but it was a very negative notation, and it was in the same article that the press release that she voted for was released. So had you had the standards that you say you have in transparency, that should have been a 4-2 vote. In all of our city managers' reviews, they were all stellar. Never did I hear anybody say that they had issues with his management style or his decision-making. So again, this is, it's disappointing that we can pass a press release 6-0 and then after the fact make negative commentary.
Mayor?
Can we call for the vote now?
The chair can call for the vote when you want.
I'm calling for the vote.
I still have comments that I wanted to make.
I call for the vote.
And it's a point of order that people still have an opportunity to talk. We can have the 4-3 vote later on, but I think we have an opportunity to still talk.
I think we're just rehashing the same
It
argument.
doesn't matter. That's what we're here to do.
There's a consensus of the board to overrule the call for the vote, then it's overruled. But it has to be a consensus.
There you go. There's your 4-3.
I support continuing the conversation.
Okay. Councilwoman Hoderick.
The media statement that we approved in a 6-0 vote represented a consensus agreement. It represented a compromise reached by 6 individuals
Point of order, is she
in the
speaking
room at the
about a
time.
closed session conversation? That concerns me, and
Well, Councilman Henderson did.
Point of order, Councilwoman Hoderick. Point of order.
Okay.
I'm not, if that's city attorney's
City
answer
Attorney
to that
Bloom,
question.
I think she's getting,
I'm
I think she
addressing what
is,
he accused me of.
I think she's getting close.
Obviously, all of the council members are aware of the obligation to not disclose anything that was discussed in a closed session.
Okay, then I'll just say this. We reach agreements here at the table and vote, and each of us has a First Amendment right to speak our opinions of matters. The quote referenced by Councilman Henderson is no different than anything I would share if I talked one-on-one with anyone. And I have a First Amendment right to do that. I am working also, trying to work cooperatively with council. And we had a media statement that went out, and my perception is that it failed in representing the city properly. Now tonight, we're here to say, what do we do to overcome that?
Councilwoman Abraham.
Thank you. There's been a lot of mention of bad precedents, and it's never been done in the city to waive attorney-client privilege. But perhaps we need to consider that the things we looked at had never been done in the city before either. So if we're talking about precedent, we need to also consider that. We talk about who would come forward. Who's going to come forward now? Who's going to come forward now? Clearly, council will look the other way, and that's really concerning to me. And I do take umbrage at that I don't care about the privacy of the employees. I think every employee understands that everything they do is public. The resolution on the table applies the same FOIA rules that they would with anything else. If someone had applied a FOIA request on a building permit and anything about that, there'd be redaction as appropriate. I do not see that having a redacted report would harm the privacy any more than any other FOIA request. I also wanted to comment on the matter that was said, any of us can answer questions, but we can't. Right. We can't. Everything that we said is in closed session, and thus we can't talk about it. All we can say is that was the consensus. We can't explain why we feel the way that we do about certain matters. By waiving the attorney-client privilege, that gives us the ability. It takes the muzzle off. And I think in today's day and age, transparency and thoughtfulness of why we chose to do what we did is critical. So I don't see how a redacted report would harm the employees. I think they would support it.
Councilman Campbell?
No, I'm all set, Dan. We're all set.
Councilman Henderson?
Just one last thing. The 6-0 vote was actually an open session, and it was a 6-0 approval of the press release. So that was not in closed session, and it wasn't a consensus. It was an actual 6-0 vote.
The discussion about that.
Mayor Pro Tem Pennington.
There is no way that the employees that came forward and talked to Mr. Lang would have given him any information if they would have known it was going to be public. That's all I have to say. There's no way.
Councilman Baker?
That's not true.
I will say I resent the comments by Councilman Campbell stating, predicting how the vote's going to go based on conversations that he may or may not have been present for in some of the closed sessions. I think that is beneath the level that we sit up here with, and I'm a little bit surprised, especially for the personal attacks. I also, with regard to Councilmember Abraham's last statement that those employees would want this, I think that's up to them. Nothing prohibits any of those employees from going out and speaking to the press right now. So I feel more comfortable giving that to them, not to us.
Anyone else? I do want to say that each council member speaks for themselves, and there was consensus reached many times in closed session. And I would like to point out that Councilman Campbell was not present for the last closed session where we discussed most everything that was crucial. The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
No.
Councilmember Campbell?
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson?
No.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Pennington?
No.
Mayor Slater?
No. Motion fails. Next on the agenda is council comments. Do we need any more comments?
I don't think so. Like,
Councilman Henderson.
if I can just bring one thing up. This is something that was laid on the desk here before our meeting tonight, and it's from our Congressman Dave Trott. And it's a request for anyone that is considering going to any of the military service academies. He would like to nominate any youth out there in the city of Troy that is making that consideration. So if you'd like to reach out to Congressman Trott's office, his number is 248-528-0711, or you can reach me through Facebook or my email address or phone number, either one, all on the city website, if you have interest in that.
Thank you. Any other comments? Next are the reports. Are there any comments regarding the reports in the agenda packet this evening?
Just one comment, Mayor.
Councilwoman Abraham.
On P2A, the master plan update, I just wanted to state that it will be reviewed at the next regular council meeting. It had originally been scheduled for this one, so for those who might have tuned in expecting discussion on that, it is scheduled for the 22nd, I think.
I did want to bring up that also there's a good chance I will not be here at that meeting. So if council chooses to continue with that date, there's a good chance I won't be here. Not hearing any opposition to that date, I guess we'll stay with that date. Thank you. Any other comments on the reports this evening? Just lost my computer. Does anybody see if anybody has signed up for?
Mayor?
Lorraine.
There was.
Lorraine's.
If I could get-
There's one speaker signed up for Q, Ms. Campbell.
I'll call on Lorraine Campbell and trying to get an IT person up here to help me with this. Good evening, Lorraine.
Good evening, Mayor.
Sorry that you had to sit through that.
That's okay. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I'd like to break the tension by coming to say, on behalf of the Historical Society, I'm here to thank you and to thank city management for the City of Troy's support in the traffic jam car show, which occurred yesterday. We heard earlier this evening the Next Assistants talking about coming up with another event that would showcase the city. I would suggest yesterday you had that. The Troy traffic jam was, by all accounts, an incredible success. 277 vehicles were registered for the event. I did see that we had at least one Canadian car come in, so I guess we could say we're international. I saw Bay City represented, so we certainly have reached out beyond the limits of Troy, Oakland County, and even Southeast Michigan. There were 2,800 people clicked in that our volunteers noted came into the event. This year, our kids pit was loaded with children having a good time. We had, by all accounts, a family-friendly event that showcased the city of Troy, the Big Beaver Corridor, and what our community is made of. On top of that, now I don't have those final numbers, but the Troy Historical Society, thanks to our sponsors, and there were 25 of them, and the car owners who each paid to bring their cars in, we will probably net somewhere in the vicinity of $22,000 to $25,000. So it was a great day's work. I want you to know that there were 90 volunteers who worked on the event. I want to thank Alan Kerlick and Kirko for giving us their tremendous site, for Kelly Services and the Suburban Collection for being major sponsors, and all the rest of the sponsors, and the City of Troy. Certainly, City Manager Kishnick and Mark Miller in particular. Thank you, Mark, for coming to meetings, for calling in on conference calls, gave us their time and support. Troy PD brought the hot rod, and the fire department brought over the fire truck. We also had support from Sylvan Glen Golf Course, which brought a couple of golf carts, which really were helpful for our guests who had physical limitations, and were still able to enjoy a great event. Next year will be the 10th annual Traffic Jam Car Show. So I'm going to ask everybody right now to put August 6, 2017 on their calendars. And Mayor Slater, please, I thank you personally for being a great judge.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Lorraine. It was a great event. Thanks you to the Chamber of Commerce for the weather. It was perfect weather. And I enjoyed the Tucker. I really did. It was very good.
Mayor?
Okay.
I just want to say, Lorraine, that's always a great event. I mean, I've been there every year. My son got married over the weekend. Otherwise, I would have had the mom's old car there. But, you know, sorry I forgot about you, but, you know, we were a little busy.
Okay. There is no closed session this evening, so we are adjourned. Thank you for coming tonight.